Now, I think it's pretty much universally known at this point that major Hollywood studios out there, for example, like Disney and Warner Brothers, have really been messing up with their franchises, especially with their film slate. You know, we know that the DC universe has been an ever-failing process on their end. They really can't seem to figure it out. Even Blue Beetle really performed terribly at the box office, which serves, by the way, as the beginning of James Gunn's, of course, his new DC universe, which is off to a terrible start as it is. However, when it all comes down to Aquaman 2 and Amber Heard, there is a lot to discuss today, so stay tuned. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. And one thing about Disney and Warner Brothers is that they both have their fair share of insufferables, as I like to call them. You know, Disney has Rachel Zegler, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Brie Larson, and in this scenario, in isolation, WB has Amber Heard, and we know that Aquaman 2 has been getting a lot of flack over the fact that WB decided to keep Amber Heard in there, even if it is a very small role. But there's a lot of big things that happened behind closed doors over at WB related to the Lost Kingdom. Let's dive into this further, shall we? Now, the thing about Amber Heard, in case you guys did not know, is that a lot of her scenes got cut. In fact, a large portion of them are never going to see the light of day, and Amber Heard has been losing it entirely. So, with actress Amber Heard dealing with the fallout from the failed test screening of Aquaman 2, one major development has to do with the ongoing backlash and more surrounding her role in Aquaman: The Lost Kingdom. This mostly has to do with the recent test screening of Aquaman that failed so hard that screeners even walked out. This led to WB making the ultimate call to do a second phase of deleting scenes, including Amber Heard, related to her character Mira. Right now, one significant update all of this drama is that Amber Heard, her agent and manager are fighting back against Warner Brothers for cutting out some of her scenes, which were little to begin with, that were initially promised to remain in the final cut, specifically in the third act toward the end, as they are trying to get these scenes reinstated into the film before its release in December. Currently where it stands now after the failed test screening is that Amber Heard is barely in this movie to begin with. The backlash from screeners created such a scare for WB that they forced director James Wan to pass down their demands to the editors to cut out roughly 50% of Mira's scenes from the sequel. Now, let me just say one thing about James Wan. James Wan really does not want to make it openly clear that this is why we are getting so little footage of Amber Heard as Mira. He made it out to be a couple of weeks ago that she was always aimed to have a small role in this film, which may be true after all, but you can't deny the fact that she's barely in this film are due to cutbacks, and that's the ultimate truth. We know this, they know that we know this, and James Wan is just trying to save his image and save WB's image. And I'm sure it's being passed down by the bigwigs for Wan to be the face of the company at this point. Now, the thing about Wan is that, yes, he keeps going on Aquaman 2 as like this bromance story, which I think is a little weird for him to say it like that, since those two characters are gonna have a different direction in this film. But what's interesting is the fact that Act 3 was gonna be filled with scenes for Amber Heard that are now greatly reduced due to the failed test screenings, and more, by the way, are to come, to really kind of see where the current cut of Aquaman stands. Now, I don't know if you saw the trailer. It may seem entertaining to some of you out there. It wasn't for me. It was very much like, what am I looking at? What's going on? The spirit of the original film was not there. It feels different. It has a different take. It just seems like it's not working just from the trailer alone. You can just feel it usually when these trailers hit online, and you can always kind of get a rough idea of whether a movie is gonna sell or not sell, either as, a customer or, through their perspective as a business. So, further, this is where things get even more serious related to Amber Heard, alright? Now, Warner Brothers is also refusing to pay a certain margin to Amber Heard for Aquaman 2 once it arrives on streaming, such as HBO Max. Amber Heard is desperately attempting to find a solution to WB's decision on the amount that they forced to pay Amber. She is also extremely upset over the fact that WB is now refusing to showcase the deleted scenes and unfinished footage on the official Blu-ray and digital version of the film. So there you have it again, is the fact that they are also cutting back on her income for streaming of Aquaman 2, and that's something that can be very complex when it comes to contracts and stuff like that. So that's, something for her and her team to figure out, her agent and manager and others. They are really trying to go against WB, trying to reverse all of what they recently did based on the failed test screenings. Now, again, more are to come for test screenings to test the updated cut of Aquaman 2 by James Wan that will most likely fail again as well. Jason Momoa is reportedly eager to part ways from WB finally, and to focus on Universal with Fast and Furious again with part 11 and 12. Amber Heard is eager to also make multiple statements about the unfairness from WB and will be making that public once the SAG strike comes to a conclusion. Amber is also deeply upset over the lackluster attention of her newest film called Into the Fire. Now, here's the problem too with Amber Heard, is that she is already pre-planning major statements about how WB treated her, how the general public views her as an actress, and how unfair it is. And look, I have no sympathy for Amber Heard after what she did to Johnny Depp. We all know what she did to Johnny Depp was absolutely terrible, to the point where it also destroyed his career. He lost the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. Disney wanted him to come back. But you know what? He really took the high road and said, nah, you know what? I'm not dealing with you guys anymore. So he refused. And I respect people for doing that. The fact that they just turned down those roles. Not like it matters to Johnny Depp anyway. This guy owns an island of all things, so he has no concerns about money. Trust me on this. So the fact that he was able to turn down Disney is one thing. The fact that Amber Heard has the audacity to get all riled up over what WB is doing with Mira in this movie is another. And I think it just goes to show you how egotistically driven she really is, both as an actress and as a person, more so as a person, I should add. And this is exactly why I add her to the top of the group called the Insufferables. Alright? Just a little thing in all fun that I like to actually mention there. But what's interesting about this is the fact that WB is really moving through with releasing this movie in theaters. I think it would be a better move for them to either backgirl this thing or maybe just put it direct to HBO Max right away and just not even put it on, in the theaters. I think what's going to happen once they debut this thing in theaters, you're going to have another Flash moment. You're going to have another Shazam, the Fury of the Gods moment where it stays in there for a couple of weeks and then boom, it begins to vanquish from theaters immediately. So anyway guys, drop a comment below, fill me in below in the comments what you all have to say about this, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys next time.
From night to moon, we hear them moans again.